I'm going to need the wizard, Governor Throp, Madam Myrtle, Galinda or Glinda, whatever she wants to be called, and all the citizens of Oz, even Nessa Rose, to line it the F up behind my girl Elphaba, okay? Line it the F up. Hello. Welcome to my channel, TV-DICTION, where we talk about all my latest TV obsessions. And as you can tell from the title, I'll be giving my thoughts on the movie Wicked. I didn't get a chance to watch Wicked in theaters, but when I saw that it was available to watch through Apple TV, I automatically hopped on it because the promo that I've seen for this movie made me want to watch it so bad, even if I wasn't really familiar with the Wicked/Wizard of Oz lore. So these will be my thoughts on the movie as someone who didn't grow up as a theater kid, but, just someone who thoroughly enjoys musicals. If I'm not mistaken, this movie is based off the Broadway musical that's based off the book written by Gregory Maguire. And this is supposed to serve as some sort of prequel to The Wizard of Oz and, basically serve as Elphaba's, aka the Wicked Witch of the West's villain origin story. The movie picks up in the land of Oz as the citizens are celebrating the fact that the Wicked Witch of the West is dead. We then see Glinda the Good Witch descend in her bubble to, confirm the death of the Wicked Witch and celebrate with the citizens of Oz. As she prepares to go about her day and leave the people be, a young girl asks her if it's true that she, the Good Witch, was friends with the Wicked Witch of the West. This then prompts her to recount the story of the life of Elphaba, aka the Wicked Witch of the West. Off rip, you can see that the odds were stacked against Elphaba. One, her mom seemingly was messing around with another man behind her perceived father's back. And while she was canoodling behind Governor Throp's back, the man that she was entertaining was giving her this green elixir to drink. And the green elixir is the cause to why Elphaba was green from the womb and was born green. From the day she was born and they saw that she was green, her father, Governor Throp, started to mistreat her, ordering that her nanny bear, Dulcie Bear, go away with her and rid him of her presence. So, from day numero uno on this earth, our girl already had the odds stacked against her. Not only was she born different, but her father hated her off rip. We then see a young Elphaba playing in the garden and reading to her baby sister when a group of kids come and starts taunting her. In this scene is where we get a second look at the magical powers that she possesses when, in a fit of rage after being taunted by the kids, she was able to throw some rocks behind the kids without actually picking them up, but she was just levitating them and was able to throw it with the, movement of her hands. This is where we also see that not only was she bullied by her peers, she was also bullied by her father, as he immediately goes to chastising Elphaba for throwing the rocks at the kids instead of recognizing that those kids were bullying her and, making fun of her. This is where we also see the vast difference in the treatment between Elphaba and Nessa Rose by Governor Throp. He immediately went to coddling Nessa Rose and making sure she was okay without one care in the world for Elphaba, who was the one actually being taunted. With an upbringing like that and being bullied inside and outside the home, one cannot blame her for having a chip on her shoulders. She didn't have a chance, man. She really did not have a chance when you think about it. After the garden scene, we are then transported to orientation day at Shiz University, where we see that people start to ostracize Elphaba the minute that they realize that she's green and she's different. Even Miss Goody Two-Shoes Galinda. We soon find out that it is only Nessa Rose who was enrolled, and Elphaba is just accompanying her to see her off. And this is when my dislike for Nessa Rose actually began, because you can tell that just like her dad, she is too ashamed of Elphaba, okay? With the things that she's saying to her, like, oh, this was supposed to be my fresh start. Like, basically, she was really trying to get away from Elphaba and this thing that Elphaba has for being green. Like, this is where I really started to dislike Nessa Rose. Governor Throb told Elphaba to watch over Nessa Rose to ensure that she gets properly situated at school, because God forbid anything happens to his precious jewels, Elphaba would get the blame. But her being burdened with that task is the start of the chaos for Elphaba. While we can see the vast difference in how Governor Throb treats Nessa Rose and Elphaba, and you can see that Nessa Rose also has some sort of resentment or feels some type of way, regarding Elphaba, you see that Elphaba is really Nessa Rose's biggest champion and biggest advocacy for her independence, despite her being in a wheelchair. Because every chance she gets, where you see from Governor Throb to any, bystander, to the people who work at Shiz, as they're trying to help Nessa Rose, Elphaba is quick to speak up and say she doesn't need your help. She can do it. Because like Elphaba, Nessa Rose does not want her to be coddled. She wants to be able to move independently throughout school. But one of the staffers at Shiz did not take that, because she was so startled and taken aback by Elphaba. She just grabs Nessa Rose and pushes her off and runs away with her, basically. So in a fit of rage, because Elphaba is like, yo, that's my sister. I told you leave her alone, but you're taking her away from me. She flips that courtyard upside down. We didn't see Madame Morrible seemingly come to Elphaba's rescue and cover up for her by saying it was her who made that happen, and that, she did it to show everyone that magic has to keep you on your toes, never expect the unexpected, whatever. Whoop-de-woo. Then she also seemingly enrolls Elphaba into Shiz, as she takes her on as her personal apprentice for her infamous sorcery seminar. And at first it looks all good and dandy, and we like, okay, the tide is changing for our girl Elphaba. The direction is changing for her favor. But boy, oh boy, was I not ready for Madame Morrible's switch up, okay? But we'll talk about that later. In an attempt to suck up and get close to Madame Morrible, Galinda gets trapped into rooming with Elphaba. And of course, the two are at odds because they're polar opposites. Miss Goody Two-Shoes, Galinda, feels like she's too good to be having to room with Elphaba. And like everyone else, she treats Elphaba like crap. We continue to see how Elphaba navigates the plight that she is served, throughout Shiz, as an outsider and as someone who has to just, be off to herself. We're also introduced to another problem in the land of Oz, as the animals who once had the ability to speak and who had the ability to move freely among the community as one of the citizens of Oz are now being persecuted for such, and are losing their ability to speak and being taken away and kept in cages. We meet Professor Dillamond, who is a goat who teaches history at Shiz, and after he is the victim of a hate crime, Elphaba automatically strikes a chord with him, as she can relate to being outcasted and set out to be different from everyone else. The turn in relationship with Galinda and Elphaba occurs when Galinda gives Elphaba a black witch-like hat and invited her to a party that was being held at Shiz. Galinda was being very messy when she gifted that hat, because she thought it was hideous and wanted to humiliate Elphaba. But Elphaba didn't pick up on that, and she took it as an actual act of kindness, even going to Madame Morrible and asking her to include Galinda in the seminar that she's been so desperately wanting to join. At first, Galinda allowed everyone to ridicule Elphaba at the party, but after Madame Morrible came up to her and told her what Elphaba did for her, she had a change of heart, and she joins Elphaba on the dance floor, and then the two hit it off. And then as the, friendship starts to actually form, that's when we get the song Popular performed, where Galinda adopts Elphaba and tries to Galindify her. They confide in each other with Secret, where Galinda's own was underwhelming because she shares that she will be marrying the new guy, Fierro, who none of them really know, and he doesn't know it yet. So that really wasn't a secret, but oh well. But Elphaba does reveal that she feels like it's her fault that her dad hates her. And it's also her fault that Nessa Rose is in the wheelchair. And once again, your heart can't help but ache for Elphaba, because absolutely not. That's not her burden to carry. But you see, that she does, okay? Because she feel like her dad not wanting Nessa Rose to turn out green had her mom eating these milk flowers, which eventually, resulted in Nessa Rose being born prematurely and the mom dying at, her birth. So she feels if she never came out green, that would have never happened. And baby, that is not her burden to carry. That is not her cross to bear. So you feel for Elphaba. Like, she really is the underdog in this story. Which is crazy because the Wizard of Oz, paints her as such a horrible person. And it's like, had we not get this prequel, we would never know. Like, she is that way because of all of this. Eventually, Professor Dillamon unfortunately gets taken away and loses his ability to speak, and is replaced with a human professor who introduces the idea of animals being placed in cages. And Elphaba and Fiora ends up freeing the cub. And there we start to see that there's a little spark between the two that is actually never explored, I guess, out of respect for Galinda. Shortly after all of that transpired, Elphaba gets word from Madame Morrible that she was invited to go see the wizard down in Emerald City. And she, of course, is excited because she feels like the wizard could help, rectify the injustice that is happening with the animals. But little does she know, in a show of friendship, Elphaba decides to extend the invitation to Galinda, who changed her name to Glinda for show of allyship with Professor Dillamon. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But you would think that the trip to Emerald City would have went off without a hitch and would have been a success because it started off so promising. But no, that's further from the truth. That's when the true wickedness actually unfolds. The wizard, who of course turns out to be a mere mortal himself, along with Madame Morrible, tricks Elphaba into reading a spell out of their grimoire, which ends up taking the power of speech and cognizance from the animals. And when Elphaba, who is clearly distraught when she realizes what she has done and wants to, reverse it and not further their plot, is freaking out, the wizard and Madame Morrible turns on her and paints her as the villain, as if they didn't coerce her to read the spell. They painted it as though this green wicked witch came in, set the spell, and that's the reason why the animals are going crazy and the animals are losing their speech. So they stick all of the animals of Oz on her, trying to capture Elphaba and Galinda at the time, who is still by her side. But when Elphaba asks her to, finally stick it out with her and go away together, Galinda decides to, turn her down. And Elphaba ends up getting away by herself, riding off on her broomstick, as she's, belting out defying gravity. And thus the Wicked Witch of the West's origin story has been developed. I know there was a lot of discourse online about Cynthia Erivo playing Elphaba, as if, white people wanted it to be played by a white woman, because originally, the original Galinda and Elphaba, Kristen Chetwick and Idina Menzel were white. But honestly, who better can relate to the story of Elphaba than a black woman, literally born into adversity and born with strikes on her literally because of the color of her skin? Like, hello? That screams the plight of black women. Like, nobody else could portray Elphaba like, a black woman, because the parallels of our real life realities is so jarring in it. So shout out to the casting. I think it was wonderfully done. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. The runtime for the movie is about 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's so good that you don't realize that it's that long. It currently has an IMDb score of 7.9 out of 10 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 88%. But to me, it's a 10 out of 10 chef's kiss. And as someone who isn't really familiar with the Wicked/Wizard of Oz lore, it was easy to follow and easy to keep up with. I also appreciate the fact that there was a lot more dialogue than singing, because I felt like that helped in being able to keep up and keep your attention to follow along with the storyline. But justice for our girl Elphaba, because they painted her as the bad guy and turned everyone against her after making her carry out their despicable plot. Like, they did her so dirty. Yeah, and after the way she was treated, if I was her, I'd turn wicked too, honestly, okay? But I could easily see myself rewatching this over and over and over again. Dear theater kids, I get it. I get it. It was a masterpiece. I really loved it. Down in the comments, let me know if you saw it already. Will you be watching it, and your overall thoughts on the whole Wicked and Wizards of Oz lore. Until next time, thank you for watching.